When Mountain Men premiered in 2012, viewers thought they knew what to expect from another survival reality show. But behind the rugged facades and wilderness adventures lies a collection of bizarre incidents, shocking near-death experiences, and government raids that sound stranger than fiction. From camera crews falling through Arctic ice to cast members getting arrested for trespassing disputes. Fact 1. Government officials raided Eustace's school after watching the show. Most reality TV stars worry about bad reviews or declining ratings, but Eustace Conway faced something far more unusual when his own government became his biggest critic. After Mountain Men premiered on the History Channel in 2012, county officials in North Carolina didn't just watch the show for entertainment, they used it as evidence to shut down Conway's 26-year-old nature school at Turtle Island Preserve. For over 2 decades, Conway had operated his outdoor education program without any major issues, teaching thousands of students primitive survival skills and traditional living methods on his 1,000-acre property in the Blue Ridge Mountains. School groups, scouts, and families had visited Turtle Island for years to experience life without modern conveniences, learning everything from fire-making to wilderness survival in structures built using ancient techniques. But when Watauga County officials saw Conway's lifestyle being broadcast on national television, they decided his buildings didn't meet modern safety codes. In February 2012, just months after the show began airing, county inspectors arrived at Turtle Island and issued a cease and desist order, forcing Conway to close his nature school immediately. The violations they cited were so absurd they bordered on comedy. One of the most ridiculous infractions involved Conway's doghouse, which officials claimed was being used as housing for interns. According to Conway himself, the county cited him because his doghouse didn't have electricity, running water, or a sprinkler system in case of fire. As Conway explained in a statement, one of the infractions cited by Watauga County was the home for my intern had no electricity or running water and had no sprinkler system in case of a fire. That home was my doghouse. The county was citing me because my doghouse didn't have a sprinkler system and modern amenities. The timing wasn't coincidental county planning, and inspections head Joe Furman had specifically told Conway that it was unacceptable to be showing people traditional building processes on television without proper permits, turning Conway's television success into his legal nightmare. Fact 2. A cameraman nearly lost 3 fingers to frostbite. While viewers watch Mountain Men from the comfort of their heated living rooms, the camera crews filming the show face life-threatening dangers that never make it to television. Camera operator Mason Gertz learned this the hard way when he nearly lost 3 fingers to frostbite while trying to capture footage of one of nature's most elusive predators. Gertz was working with cast member Marty in the brutal Alaskan wilderness, where temperatures regularly drop to 30 below zero and the conditions can turn deadly in minutes. The crew's job requires them to follow the Mountain Men through some of the most dangerous terrain in North America, carrying heavy camera equipment while enduring the same harsh conditions that challenge even experienced survivalists. During one particularly challenging shoot, Gertz was attempting to film a lynx in its natural habitat when the extreme cold began attacking his exposed skin. Frostbite is a serious medical condition where freezing temperatures literally freeze the water in your skin cells, causing permanent damage that can lead to amputation if not treated immediately. In the remote Alaskan wilderness, medical help can be hours or even days away, making any injury potentially life-threatening. The situation became critical when Gertz realized he was losing feeling in his hand, a clear sign that frostbite was setting in. Without immediate intervention, the damage would have become irreversible, requiring doctors to amputate the affected fingers to prevent the injury from spreading to other parts of his body. Fortunately, Marty Mayorato's wilderness survival skills proved invaluable in saving Gertz's hand. Using techniques honed through decades of living in extreme conditions, Mayorato was able to treat the frostbite before permanent damage occurred. As Gertz later explained to Men's Journal, "I also nearly lost part of my hand to frostbite while trying to film a lynx. If it weren't for Marty's help, I'd be missing 3 fingers." This incident highlights the very real dangers that camera crews face while filming Mountain Men, proving that the show's dangerous conditions aren't just dramatic television, but genuine threats that could permanently change lives in a matter of minutes. Fact 3. Tom Orr's near-death rodeo accident changed everything. Most fans of mountain men know Tom Orr as the skilled mountain man who lives in Montana's remote wilderness, but few realize that his entire life changed direction because of a single terrifying moment with a 2,000-pound bull on Valentine's Day in 1970. Before he ever touched a trap or tanned his first hide, Orr was living a completely different life as a professional rodeo cowboy, and he was incredibly good at it. By the early 1960s, Tom had climbed the ranks of the International Rodeo Association and established himself as a champion rider who consistently made it to the finals and ranked in the top 10 year after year. He had been riding bulls and broncos for nearly 3 decades, thriving on the excitement and danger that came with trying to stay on the back of an angry animal for 8 seconds while thousands of spectators watched from the stands. On that fateful winter day in 1970, 35-year-old Tom found himself in the chute preparing to ride a massive bull with the intimidating name of Woolly Bugger. As was his usual practice, Tom had wrapped his hand tightly in the bull rope, which meant his hand was locked into position and he couldn't easily let go if something went wrong. The moment the chute opened, disaster struck in the most violent way possible. According to Tom's own account of the accident, there was some kind of big eruption as soon as the gate opened, and his skull collided directly with the bull's massive head, knocking him completely unconscious while he was still tied to the animal. Because his hand was pinned to the bull by the rope, Tom's unconscious body remained attached to Woolly Bugger as the enraged animal bucked and thrashed around the arena. As Tom later described the horrifying experience, "So now my legs and stuff are underneath his hind legs, and he's bucking and stepping on me quite hard." Tom had to be carried out of the arena on a stretcher, and he admits it was the closest he ever came to death inside a rodeo arena. The brush with mortality completely changed his perspective on life, and shortly after recovering from his injuries, Tom dropped the reins on his rodeo career forever and answered the call of the mountains instead. Fact 4. Crew members fall through ice in Arctic conditions. Filming mountain men requires camera crews to work in some of the most dangerous conditions on Earth, and cameraman Mason Gertz discovered just how deadly those conditions can be when he fell through frozen river ice in 30 below zero weather while filming in Alaska. What started as a routine day of capturing footage nearly turned into a fatal disaster that could have left him dead within minutes. The incident occurred while Gertz was working with the production team to document the harsh realities of surviving in Alaska's brutal wilderness, where frozen rivers and lakes create a deceptively dangerous landscape that can look solid but hide deadly weak spots underneath. River ice is particularly treacherous because moving water underneath can create thin patches that appear strong enough to support a person's weight but will suddenly give way without warning. When Gertz stepped onto what appeared to be solid ice, the frozen surface cracked and collapsed beneath him, plunging him into the freezing Arctic water below. In 30 below zero temperatures, falling through ice creates an immediate life-threatening emergency because the human body can only survive for a few minutes in water that cold before hypothermia sets in and becomes fatal. The shock of the freezing water hitting his body would have made it extremely difficult to think clearly or coordinate his movements, making escape even more challenging. Making the situation even more desperate, Gertz found himself a full mile away from the nearest shelter when the accident happened, meaning he had to somehow make it back to safety while his wet clothes froze to his body in the sub-zero air temperature. Every second counted as the Arctic conditions worked against his survival, with his wet clothing becoming a deadly liability that could freeze solid and trap him in place if he didn't move fast enough. Fortunately, Gertz managed to pull himself out of the icy water and scramble the entire mile back to a cabin before the extreme cold could claim his life. The rescue crew that responded to the emergency prevented him from developing hypothermia, gangrene, or worse, but the incident perfectly illustrates just how quickly a routine filming day can turn into a fight for survival in the unforgiving conditions where mountain men is shot. Fact 5. Marty's plane nearly crashed in a nosedive. Marty Majorato's bush plane is his lifeline to survival in the Alaskan wilderness. But during one terrifying flight that was captured on camera, his trusted aircraft nearly became his death trap when it suddenly went into a straight nosedive that could have killed him instantly. The heart-stopping incident was so dramatic that it became the centerpiece of a Mountain Men episode appropriately titled Closest Call, showing viewers just how quickly things can go wrong in the unforgiving Alaska backcountry. Mayorato relies on his Piper PA 18A 150 Super Cub aircraft with Tundra tires to reach his remote cabin on the Dronjik River in Alaska's North Slope, flying hundreds of miles from civilization to tend his trap lines and collect furs during the brutal winter months. Bush flying in Alaska is already considered one of the most dangerous forms of aviation in the world, because pilots must navigate through unpredictable weather, land on makeshift airstrips, and deal with mechanical problems in areas where help can be days away. During this particular flight, while monitoring his animal traps, something went catastrophically wrong with Mayorato's plane, sending it into a sudden and uncontrolled nosedive that pointed the aircraft straight toward the ground. In aviation, a nosedive is one of the most dangerous situations a pilot can face, because the plane is essentially falling out of the sky, and without immediate corrective action, the aircraft will crash within seconds, leaving no chance for survival. Using his years of flying experience and remarkable piloting skills, Mayorato somehow managed to regain control of the plummeting aircraft and stabilize it just in time to perform an emergency landing in a remote area far from any help. While he successfully avoided what would have been a devastating and likely fatal crash, the emergency landing left him stranded overnight in the harsh Alaskan wilderness without his usual survival gear or supplies. The situation forced Mayorato to rely on his wilderness survival expertise to make it through the night in conditions that could easily kill an unprepared person, proving that even experienced mountain men can find themselves fighting for their lives when mechanical failures strike in the middle of nowhere. Fact 6. Preston Roberts died within 3 weeks of cancer diagnosis. The sudden death of Preston Roberts shocked Mountain Men fans around the world. But what made his passing even more heartbreaking was how incredibly fast the disease took him from a healthy, active outdoorsman to his final moments in just 3 short weeks. Roberts had been Eustace Conway's best friend and right-hand man at Turtle Island Preserve for over 30 years, appearing regularly on the show as they worked together to teach primitive survival skills and maintain their wilderness education camp. Just 3 weeks before his death on July 24, 2017, the 60-year-old former art teacher had been doing what he loved most, teaching children at Turtle Island summer camp and sharing his knowledge of traditional outdoor skills with the next generation. Roberts appeared to be in good health and was actively involved in all the physical demands of running the outdoor education program, from building projects to leading wilderness activities, with no visible signs of the cancer that was silently growing inside him. The medical reality of Roberts' situation was both swift and devastating. He had developed a large, inoperable tumor on his liver that completely blocked the flow of blood and oxygen to his vital organs throughout his body. Liver tumors of this type are particularly dangerous because the liver is responsible for so many critical bodily functions, and when a tumor grows large enough to interfere with blood flow, it can cause multiple organ systems to shut down rapidly. According to the statement released by Turtle Island Preserve, the change in Roberts' condition was so rapid that it completely outpaced any possible medical treatment, leaving doctors with no effective options to slow down or stop the cancer's progression. The tumor's interference with his circulation meant that his body's organs were being starved of the oxygen and nutrients they needed to function properly. Preston Roberts took his final breath at 3:30 in the afternoon on Monday, July 24, 2017, surrounded by his beloved wife Kathleen and family members who had rushed to be with him during his final days. His best friend Eustace Conway announced the devastating news on social media, describing the loss as indescribable and highlighting how Preston's sudden departure left a massive hole in the Turtle Island community. Fact 7. The show creates fake animal encounters. While Mountain Men presents dramatic encounters with dangerous wildlife as spontaneous moments of survival, cast member Tom Orr revealed the surprising truth about how these thrilling scenes actually make it to television. In a candid interview with the Billings Gazette in 2013, Orr admitted that when he encounters grizzly bears and wolves during his real work in the Montana wilderness, the camera crews aren't always there to capture the authentic moment, so the producers have to get creative with how they show these encounters to viewers. According to Orr's explanation, He does genuinely face dangerous wildlife while working his trap lines and going about his daily survival activities in the remote Yaak River Valley, where grizzly bears and wolf packs are a real and constant threat to anyone living off the land. These encounters happen naturally as part of his wilderness lifestyle, but the reality of television production means that camera crews can't be present 24 hours a day to film every moment of his life, especially when dangerous situations develop quickly and unexpectedly. When Orr has a real encounter with a bear or wolf pack while the cameras aren't rolling, the production team faces a dilemma because these dramatic moments are exactly what viewers want to see, but they missed capturing the actual event as it happened. To solve this problem, the crew returns later to film separate footage of the same types of animals in different locations, then uses editing techniques to recreate the dangerous encounter for television audiences. Orr explained that the show's editors then insert this separately filmed animal footage into sequences to make it appear as though viewers are witnessing the original encounter, even though the animals on screen were filmed at a completely different time and place. This technique allows the show to present the drama and danger that Orr actually experiences in his daily life, while ensuring that viewers get to see the wildlife encounters that make mountain men exciting to watch. The practice highlights the complex balance between authentic reality television and the practical challenges of capturing genuinely spontaneous moments in the wilderness, where dangerous situations can develop and resolve before camera crews have time to set up their equipment and start filming. Fact 8. Mountain lions have charged camera crews multiple times. Camera crews working on mountain men face dangers that go far beyond equipment malfunctions or harsh weather, and nowhere is this more evident than when filming with mountain lion hunter Rich Lewis in Montana's Ruby Valley, where crew members have been charged by aggressive cougars on multiple occasions. These attacks have made following Lewis one of the most genuinely dangerous assignments in television production, turning what might seem like a routine filming job into a life-threatening experience that requires nerves of steel. Rich Lewis works as a professional houndsman who tracks and relocates mountain lions that pose threats to livestock and human settlements in southwest Montana, using a pack of specially trained hunting dogs to tree the big cats, before moving them to safer locations away from populated areas. Mountain lions are apex predators that can weigh up to 200 pounds and possess incredible strength, speed, and agility, making them extremely dangerous when they feel cornered or threatened by humans getting too close. The camera crews assigned to document Lewis's work must follow him and his dogs through rugged mountain terrain while carrying heavy filming equipment, often getting close enough to capture dramatic footage of the mountain lions once they've been treed by the hounds. This puts the crew members in extremely vulnerable positions because mountain lions are unpredictable wild animals that can launch themselves from tree branches or rocky ledges with lightning speed, covering significant distances in a single bound when they decide to attack. According to co-creator Chris Richardson, who spoke to Men's Journal about the production challenges, crew members following Rich Lewis have been charged by mountain lions multiple times during filming, creating genuine life-or-death situations that require immediate defensive action to prevent serious injuries or fatalities. These charges aren't staged dramatic moments, but real attacks from wild predators that see the camera crews as potential threats to be eliminated. The repeated mountain lion charges have forced the production company to be extremely selective about which crew members they assign to work with Lewis, as Richardson explained when he noted that prospective cameramen who start talking about decent hotels and per diems quickly reveal they're not suited for the job's extreme dangers. Fact 9. Eustace admits he plays up his eccentric persona. While many reality TV stars try to convince audiences that what they see on screen is completely authentic, Eustace Conway surprised fans by openly admitting that he deliberately exaggerates his rugged, eccentric mountain man character, because he understands exactly what stereotypes viewers expect from someone living off the grid. This confession came during interviews with author Elizabeth Gilbert for her book The Last American Man, where Conway revealed his surprisingly calculated approach to his television persona. Conway's admission shows a level of self-awareness that most reality TV personalities would never publicly acknowledge, as he explained that he's fully conscious of the stereotypes and assumptions that people make about individuals who choose to live primitive lifestyles away from modern civilization. Rather than fighting against these preconceived notions or trying to prove that he's more sophisticated than people expect, Conway made the strategic decision to lean into these stereotypes and use them to his advantage for entertainment purposes. According to Gilbert's reporting, Conway told her that he felt the need to live up to a specific image that people already had in their minds about what a mountain man should look like, act like, and sound like when appearing on television. This meant deliberately emphasizing certain aspects of his personality and lifestyle that would reinforce viewers' expectations about off-grid living, even if those emphasized characteristics didn't represent the complete picture of who he really is as a person. The strategy represents a tried-and-true entertainment approach that has been used successfully in television and movies for decades, where performers deliberately play up certain traits or behaviors that audiences find appealing or dramatically interesting. Conway's willingness to admit this calculated approach to his television character reveals that he understands the entertainment business better than many viewers might realize, and that he's actively participating in creating the dramatic persona that makes mountain men compelling television. This behind-the-scenes insight into Conway's thinking process shows that even reality television involves a significant amount of conscious performance and character development, with cast members making deliberate choices about how to present themselves to create the most engaging viewing experience possible. Fact 10. Conway was arrested for a property line dispute. Just when Eustace Conway thought his legal troubles with the county government were behind him, he found himself facing criminal charges in December 2012 after a bizarre property dispute with his neighbor escalated into behavior that landed him in jail. The incident involved his neighbor, Margaret A. Palms, who had previously been friends with Conway before their relationship deteriorated, over disagreements about where exactly their shared property line was located. According to Palm's account to the High Country Press, she and Conway had been good friends for years and had never had any problems with the property boundary that separated their land, but Conway suddenly began disputing the location of the property line that they had both accepted and respected for a long time. What started as a simple disagreement about land boundaries quickly spiraled into increasingly strange and aggressive behavior that shocked Palms and her family. The situation reached a dramatic climax in December 2012, when Conway allegedly took matters into his own hands in ways that went far beyond normal neighbor disputes. Palms told the newspaper that Conway went to her property and tied their gate shut so that she and her family couldn't leave their own land, essentially trapping them on their property against their will. But Conway didn't stop there, according to Palm's detailed account of the incident. She claimed that Conway also put posters all over their gates, mailboxes, and fences, essentially defacing their property with unauthorized materials, and then took the extreme step of placing large wooden barriers across their access points, so they couldn't get out, even if they managed to untie the gates. As Palms described Conway's behavior to the press, he just kind of went nuts during this confrontation over the property line. The incident resulted in Conway being arrested and charged with trespassing on his neighbor's property, adding criminal legal problems to the civil issues he was already facing with the county government over building code violations at Turtle Island Preserve. However, Conway caught another lucky break when the charges against him were dismissed in May of the following year, allowing him to avoid any criminal conviction related to the property line dispute. Fact 11. Tom watches his own show every Sunday. One of the most amusing contradictions about mountain men is that Tom Orr, who is presented as living completely off the grid in Montana's remote Yaak River Valley, actually has enough modern technology access to watch himself on television every week with his wife Nancy. Despite the show's emphasis on his primitive lifestyle and rejection of 21st century conveniences, Orr has revealed that he and Nancy make watching mountain men a regular part of their weekly routine every Sunday night. The irony of this situation becomes even more entertaining when you consider that Orr is portrayed throughout the series as someone who has deliberately chosen to live without most modern amenities relying instead on traditional skills like trapping, hunting, and hide, tanning to survive in one of the most isolated areas of the continental United States. Viewers watch him chopping wood by hand, preserving meat using ancient techniques, and crafting tools from natural materials, all while living in a log cabin that he and Nancy built themselves more than 40 years ago. Yet behind the scenes, Orr has access to television reception and enough electrical power to run a TV set, allowing him to critique his own performance and see how the producers and editors have presented his wilderness lifestyle to millions of viewers around the country. The fact that he watches the show religiously every Sunday suggests that he's genuinely interested in seeing how his real life translates into television entertainment, and perhaps enjoys seeing himself portrayed as the skilled mountain man that he truly is. Adding another layer to this technological contradiction, Orr also admits to having limited cell phone reception in his remote location, which means he's not completely cut off from the modern world of instant communication that most people take for granted. This access to both television and cellular service reveals that even the most dedicated off-grid lifestyle still involves some connection to the technological infrastructure that makes modern life possible, even in the remote wilderness of northwestern Montana, where the Orrs have chosen to make their home. Fact 12. The production company hired 70 local workers. When the History Channel decided to create Mountain Men, the producers made an unusual choice that ended up transforming a small Montana business into a major employer in the region by hiring locally instead of bringing in their own television crews from Hollywood or New York. Rather than flying in experienced production teams from major media centers, the show's creators partnered with Warm Springs Productions, a local company based in Missoula, Montana, that understood the unique challenges of filming in the remote wilderness areas where the mountain men actually live and work. This decision to hire locally proved to be incredibly beneficial for both the show and the Montana economy, as Warm Springs Productions grew dramatically from a small regional operation into a major employer that needed 70 people to handle all the coordination, filming, and production work required to document the daily lives of the mountain men across multiple remote locations. The company's rapid expansion demonstrates just how much work goes into creating what appears to be a simple reality show about people living off the land. The local hiring approach made practical sense because filming mountain men requires crews who can handle the extreme physical demands of working in some of the most challenging environments in North America, from sub-zero temperatures in Alaska to dangerous mountain terrain in Montana and Idaho. Local production workers already understood the wilderness conditions and survival skills necessary to safely operate cameras and sound equipment in places where a single mistake could result in serious injury or death. By 2013, just 1 year after Mountain Men premiered, Warm Springs Productions had grown so much that the company needed to move into a larger facility to accommodate all the employees working on the show and related projects. The success of Mountain Men also led to additional filming opportunities for the company, including work on other outdoor-themed shows like the Travel Channel's Making Monsters, creating even more jobs for local workers who specialize in wilderness production. This local hiring strategy shows how a successful television show can have a significant positive economic impact on rural communities that might not otherwise benefit from the entertainment industry's job creation. Fact 13. A journalist nearly froze to death on Marty's trapline. In 2013, Field and Stream magazine writer Bill Heavey joined Marty Mayorotto on his trapline in Alaska to write about the reality of surviving in one of the world's harshest environments, but what was supposed to be an educational experience nearly turned into a fatal disaster when Heavey became separated from his guide and found himself lost in the deadly sub-zero wilderness. The incident perfectly demonstrates why Marty's survival skills are genuine and not just television dramatics, as his knowledge literally saved a man's life during what should have been a routine day of checking traps. The dangerous situation began when Heavey lost control of his snowmobile while following Marty through the remote Alaskan backcountry, causing him to become separated from the experienced mountain man in an environment where being alone can mean death within hours. Alaska's winter landscape is unforgiving to anyone who doesn't have extensive survival training, with temperatures that can drop to life-threatening levels and terrain that can quickly disorient even experienced outdoorsmen who aren't familiar with the specific area. According to Heavey's own account of the terrifying experience, he found himself riding his snowmobile for 4 hours while completely lost in the wilderness, desperately trying to find his way back to safety, while the sub-zero temperatures worked against his survival with every passing minute. In conditions that cold, the human body begins shutting down non-essential functions to preserve core temperature, and without proper shelter or the ability to generate heat, hypothermia can set in quickly and become fatal. Fortunately for Heavey, Marty's decades of experience living and working in the Alaskan wilderness gave him the tracking and survival skills necessary to locate the lost journalist before the extreme conditions could claim his life. Marty's wife Dominique had also contributed to Heavey's survival by giving him crucial advice before the trip, telling him to never leave the cabin without carrying a lighter and paper in his pocket, basic survival items that could mean the difference between life and death if he needed to start an emergency fire. This real-life rescue demonstrates that the survival skills showcased on Mountain Men aren't just for entertainment but represent genuine life-or-death knowledge that can save lives in emergency situations. Fact 14. Crew teams live in extreme conditions for weeks. While viewers watch Mountain Men from the comfort of their heated homes, the camera crews filming the show endure the same brutal conditions as the cast members themselves, with 5-person teams living in the wilderness for weeks at a time, carrying nothing more than what fits in their backpacks. These production crews must survive in some of the most dangerous environments on Earth, while simultaneously operating heavy, expensive camera equipment that requires careful handling to capture the footage that makes the show possible. The physical demands placed on Mountain Men camera crews go far beyond what most television production workers ever experienced, as they're required to trek through dangerous terrain for days at a time while carrying 50-pound cameras up to elevations of 10,000 feet during elk hunts and other wilderness activities. Unlike crews working on studio productions or even most outdoor shows, these teams can't retreat to comfortable hotels at the end of each filming day, instead sleeping in primitive shelters or camping in sub-zero temperatures that can drop to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. According to co-creator Chris Richardson, the extreme nature of filming Mountain Men means that the production company has to be extremely selective about which crew members they hire, because the job requires people who can handle weeks without electricity, know how to prevent camera batteries from freezing in Arctic conditions, and possess the physical stamina to keep up with experienced mountain men in their own territory. Richardson explained that when prospective cameramen start talking about decent hotels and per diems during job interviews, the producers immediately know those candidates won't be suitable for the demanding work. The crews must also be prepared for 3-day treks over slippery terrain in dangerous weather conditions, all while maintaining the focus and technical skill necessary to capture professional quality footage that meets television broadcast standards. This combination of wilderness survival skills and technical expertise makes filming Mountain Men one of the most challenging jobs in television production, requiring crew members who are essentially part survival expert and part professional cinematographer. The dedication of these camera teams explains why Mountain Men footage looks so authentic and dramatic, because the people filming it are genuinely experiencing the same hardships and dangers as the mountain men they're documenting. Fact 15. The state changed laws because of Eustis's legal battle. Eustace Conway's legal battle with county officials had such a significant impact that it actually prompted the North Carolina General Assembly to pass new legislation in 2013, creating special exemptions that would protect primitive structures like those at Turtle Island Preserve from modern building code requirements. This remarkable outcome shows how one person's fight against government overreach can lead to changes in state law that benefit others facing similar situations across an entire state. When Conway challenged the county's shutdown of his nature school in court, arguing that modern building codes shouldn't apply to traditional structures used for educational purposes about primitive living skills. His case highlighted a broader conflict between historical building methods and contemporary safety regulations. The legal dispute revealed that existing North Carolina laws didn't adequately account for educational facilities that deliberately use ancient construction techniques as part of their teaching mission, creating a gap in the legal framework that needed to be addressed. Conway's persistence in fighting the county's demands through the court system brought statewide attention to the issue of how building codes should be applied to facilities that are specifically designed to demonstrate historical ways of life rather than serve as permanent modern residences. His legal team successfully argued that forcing primitive educational structures to meet the same standards as contemporary buildings would essentially make it impossible to teach traditional skills and preserve important cultural knowledge for future generations. Recognizing the validity of Conway's arguments and the importance of protecting educational institutions that focus on traditional skills, the North Carolina General Assembly stepped in to resolve the conflict by passing legislation that created specific exemptions for farm buildings, greenhouses, and primitive camps used for educational purposes. This new law provided legal protection for facilities like Turtle Island Preserve, ensuring that they could continue operating without being forced to install modern amenities that would undermine their educational mission. The successful passage of this legislation represents a rare victory for individual rights against government regulation, demonstrating that sometimes taking a principled stand against bureaucratic overreach can result in positive changes that protect not just one person's interests, but create broader protections for others facing similar challenges throughout the state.